Welcome to the Minorities Report podcast. My name is Antonio Alcazar.
And I'm Technor Studios.
We're coming at you hot with...
it's hot in August.
with...
Demolition Man.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus.
I just asked you.
Yeah.
Cool. Demolition Man, 1993.
1993. Sly Stallone.
Right off the bat, I'm going to tell you, this was Joel Schumacher's best film.
Oh, my... Hey, we'll get to that. That's pretty fucking great comment. I want to point out, we don't script any of this. We just talk about shit for the most part.
Yeah.
It's so hilarious to me that you brought that up.
Really?
Right now.
That's
exactly.
Funny. Yeah. Well, near the end of this movie, I'm just like, did Joel Schumacher make this film?
Yeah.
I bet you he did, because I don't look up anything going.
Right.
But that was the joke, by the way, that I was just looking up.
Okay.
Because I was just like, wait, what the fuck is that?
No,
name?
that hits like a motherfucking 10-ton truck, bro. That's
so
perfect.
Funny. All right.
So
yeah, let's get into this shit.
Yeah, we got Sylvester Stallone coming back. Like, he had not really done much, actually, for a few years leading into this. Mm-hmm. So this was considered a comeback for him. Mm-hmm. Wesley Snipes, Dennis Leary, Sandra Bullock. Those are pretty much the main people we're going to revolve around.
Yeah. Dennis Leary was a bigger name in 93.
Oh, yeah.
But he was barely in this. Like, I know he was like a main-ish
He's
character.
like fourth bill, though. So,
yeah, for sure. But it was just like, I think... If you counted it, he was probably in this movie for all of 4 minutes.
That's funny. He definitely is like a side character. They talk about him a lot and stuff like that. But he was. I thought he was a pretty good comedian for the 90s. Like, if you listen to him now, it's pretty cringe shit. Like, a lot of it's pretty cringe shit, because he does one of his comedy bits in the actual movie. But like,
sure,
so he's
I saw it.
Yeah.
Dennis Leary, I had a big I hate Dennis Leary phase of my life when I was younger.
Sure.
I would post about him a lot.
Interesting.
And how cringe I thought he was.
Yeah.
This was like 10 years ago now.
Yeah. I think he's, it's hard to look at comedians like Dennis Leary and kind of rate them now, right?
No, kind of different. I disagree. Because look at Bill Burr. Bill Burr had a very similar shtick.
Okay.
And Bill Burr now has he's had this character arc where he's like a different comedian now.
Yeah,
and he still shits on stuff.
Yeah.
But he does it in this I'm aware that I should be more empathetic, and it's a little weird to just shit on things.
Yeah.
So here's specifically why I'm shitting on it. I like that, and he's actually talked publicly about how he ate mushrooms, and it really changed his fucking perspective around.
Yeah.
But Dennis Leary never went through that. You see Dennis Leary interviews now, and he's the same
because I feel
guy.
like the difference is Bill Burr took drugs and Dennis Leary did coke. Like coke and coffee is all Dennis Leary ever did. Yeah. And he's I think for the late 80s, early 90s, that Irish New Yorkian sort of comedian, it's like the Andrew Dice Clay. We talk about him often.
All the time,
there's no way you can do Andrew Dice Clay right now unless you're a woman named Lisa Lampanelli. But
and even she's kind of
she's stopped. I mean, right? I mean, more her in the late 2000s.
Yes,
that was definitely her time of doing that because now
it's been a little while since then, man.
Exactly.
All of that kind of comedy really. Just fell by the way.
I know. I don't even really pay attention to comedy much anymore, to be honest. But
stand-ups and shit.
Yeah, I used to watch a lot because I liked people like Dennis Leary because then I later liked Louis Black and stuff like that. And me, I love Bill Maher, which you hate as well. So and he's that same vein of comedian right there. Yeah. So especially with Louis Black
and they were all friends too, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Bill Maher and,
yeah,
Dennis Leary. And all
yeah, definitely. I mean, they came up at around the same period of time. And shit, so
and it's funny because you like a bunch of comedians. That were just falling out of relevance when I started liking stand-up comedy. Yeah. But I also went through a big stand-up comedy time where I was just
I still think some modern comedians are funny. What is the Indian guy that's going to be in Eternals?
What? Kumail Nanjiani?
Yeah, Kumail Nanjiani.
Yeah.
I just was listening to, because I have Sirius XM radio, so I listen to stand-up comedy a lot in there, and usually it's like older stuff from like the 90s, 2000s, but one of his came on and actually cracked me the fuck up when he was talking about like racism and stuff like that and how people look at him. And it's like he came to LA, and like within a minute someone was like, hey, Kumar, where's Harold or whatever, and then he did a whole bit about that and shit.
That's so funny.
Yeah, he cracks me up, and like, I still think like there's plenty of comedy today, and this just kind of goes to what we talk about this sometimes and shit like that, like, these cringe fucking people that are like, everything's terrible nowadays, only the past. And I play that character at times and whatnot, but I still definitely enjoy shit from the last 5 to 10 years with, it's certainly not like.
Yeah, I feel like I make fun of you for playing that character more often than I make fun of anybody else.
Yeah, of course. That's the point, right? So, I come to this movie as a teenager, bro. I was 12 years old when this came out.
Okay.
Because I was turning 13. And
did you see this when you were a kid?
Here's the thing. I remember as a teenager wanting to see this. Like, this was like the first rated R film I really wanted to see. Like, because I liked Wesley Snipes and whatnot. And I remember...
You liked Wesley Snipes already?
Yeah.
What was he in before this?
He was in, like, Sugar Hill. He was in, what the fuck was that movie? New Jack City. Like, he was in a lot of different stuff. Yeah. Obviously stuff before your time and whatnot. But
I was 5.
Rising Sun. He was in a lot of shit, man. Like, he was definitely a star by this point in time.
Yeah.
And he was like a martial arts star, and he was like one of the, like, it's funny to me now, like, thinking about, like, I never really thought about representation until the last few years.
Yeah.
Right? And, like, it's funny to me now because I loved Wesley Snipes as a kid, but I never really like clicked on why. And I think like as I'm older now I understand why more, because he was one of the few big black movie stars that was like an action star, right? Like
he wasn't
there was
a comedian.
Denzel,
and there was also a lot of comedians.
Of course there was. But like Denzel was like the serious guy and whatnot.
Yeah.
Wesley Snipes, because I was in the action movies, because I was like, he's really a martial artist in real life and shit. So that's why he's able to play these physical roles so well, and they're in his element. And so, because he's not throwing fake kicks and shit like that, like some motherfuckers have to do. Yeah. So I remember wanting to see this, and like there was no way my mom was going to let me see this, because like she just was very like anti-rated R shit and stuff like that. And she went to Florida one year, and my dad let me watch this because we had HBO or whatever. So I watched this shit, and we recorded it because back in those days we had VCRs that we recorded movies on. And dude, I remember watching this shit a lot when I was a kid, man.
Set it on repeat.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, so let's jump into this motherfucking thing.
Yep.
We jump into overlooking like shit, and it's 1996 LA. Okay.
Which when I was watching this movie, I thought that I didn't know, again, I never look anything up. I didn't know when this movie was made. But when it said 1996, I assumed it was made in like 1980s.
I just was going to comment on how weird it is that it's only 3 years in the future.
Yeah, and
but already
like,
it's
LA
so crazy.
Is fucking done.
Yes, exactly.
We're 3 years away from LA being a fucking nightmare.
Yeah, it's just
the Hollywood sign is on fire when it starts.
Yes,
like somebody just set it on fire.
Yes.
And like downtown LA is just a nightmare. Collapsed apocalypse zone.
Yes. It's like, you've never seen these movies. We'll get to them at some point. Escape from New York and Escape from LA even more hit it on the head. Yeah. And that came out in like 96-ish. And that was supposed to be like 10 years in the future or whatever. And it was all fucked up, and an earthquake fucked it all up and stuff like
Which
that.
Which is what happened here too.
Yes, later on. Yeah, absolutely.
In 2010.
Yeah, something like that. Right. Sure. So we kind of get to the setting situation, and we have Stallone riding in a helicopter coming in with his little beret on and shit. And he goes, "Send a maniac to catch a maniac."
Also, I want to ask, the black guy that was piloting the helicopter is later the black guy in the police.
You got it, buddy.
Okay. I wasn't 100% sure that was the same guy, but I was just like, If it was anybody, it was probably the guy in the helicopter.
Yeah, for sure. So they shoot his ass in, and he gets down there. He does like this ridiculous bungee jump like thing, but it wasn't really even a bungee. It was like a rope, which would literally like just like pull your entire like stomach out, and you'd be in two halves on the ground there.
At the very least, he'd have snapped his spinal.
Right, exactly. So funny behind the scenes on this, they were started to try this with a bungee cord, and then like somebody like at the last minute was like, wait a second, what if he like goes all the way, because it was a 300-foot drop, what if he goes all the way down, bounces back up, and the helicopter blades are spinning? And someone was like, oh shit, yeah, let's switch how we're gonna do this, and they had to like reset up out there. Like, it's so funny to me that it got that close.
That would have been how he dies, you know?
Like, well, the stunt double, obviously.
Sure,
but, exactly.
But that would have been crazy.
Yeah, you know. Wesley Snipes has this whole place set up with his gang and everything like that, and Stallone has to start
running through, whooping everyone.
Everybody's ass is just getting whooped by this motherfucker, right? Yeah. And he eventually gets
savagely too. Yeah. Like, one of the earlier things that I was thinking when I was watching this was how cool it was shot, because he really was like huge thumbs up, huge like standing ovation to the choreographer of this first scene. Because he was just like moving through, jumping through stuff, immediately punching people, jumping through another fucking window. Like, it was just like nonstop. You felt exhilarated watching it. So I thought that was really well done. That intro scene was
and they do this, like, there's little things throughout this movie I'm going to bring up that are like little attention to details that I actually like would not expect in a movie like this.
I 100% agree with you. There are little things where I was just like, oh, that's cool.
Right,
you know, like that they would like think up a thing
just
for this.
Little shit, And like in this beginning scene, because then you get Snipes is obviously sees him on the camera coming, so he starts cutting the fucking gasoline things. He comes in, you know, Stallone eventually catches up with him. They have their little dialogue and whatnot. And
is
it cold in here, or is it just me? And he, you know, lights everything on fire. And then they start to actually physically fight.
And then it didn't immediately explode.
No,
it just lights it on fire.
Right? Yeah. Which, I mean, that's really how shit works.
Sure.
With gasoline
I was just, I was expecting the classic boom. The lighter, and then
of course,
explodes.
Right. So they start fighting and whatnot, and this is another like weird attention to detail, only because of something that happens later. Is like Snipes really doesn't hold his own again in this. So he kind of like holds back into this fight and whatnot, you know, from real life, obviously.
Yeah, because he gets his ass kicked.
Yeah, he kind of gets his ass whooped and shit, and then he gets taken out.
Which I was surprised. Obviously, later I got it. But
yes,
I was surprised at first. I'm like, oh, I thought Wesley Snipes, you know,
kind of a
like
badass.
Yeah,
absolutely right. So they drag his ass out of there, and then of course everything explodes, you know, and they're arresting him. And
that was probably a costly explosion.
Oh, I'm sure it was
practical as fuck.
The budget on this was not cheap. Okay,
I bet. And I bet because they really went for it.
Yeah, they
I
went
feel like they were just like, let's take it as seriously as we can.
Yeah.
I have a lot of issues with these movies that we watch where everything looks really like chintzy.
Sure.
You know, I think is the word for it. And I feel like they did the most with what they had in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, they hired the right people.
Right.
And they're like, we need to recreate like as much of a realistic set for 2032 as we possibly can.
Yeah, no, I agree completely with you on that. And so as they drag his ass out, the main cop is like, Spartan, I told you not, you know, this typical Lethal Weapon type of shit. I told you not to do this shit, and blah, blah, blah. And this is the one weird scene to me. Why was he wearing a beret if he was just a fucking cop?
Yeah, he was a detective.
And like, why does anyway?
So that a lot of the cops,
the beret shit made me laugh. But so he kind of hits him up about why he did this and this and that, blah blah. And he's like, yeah, the hostages weren't here anyways, you know. And then of course the guy comes and he's like, there's bodies everywhere, and Snipes is all playing it up and shit. And you know what? Here's the thing, man. What a brilliant plan, because clearly, 3 years from 1993, they didn't expect police to understand how to like CSI a body and shit. Like,
no, they were just like, oh, we found bodies, so let's just make a really quick. We've decided that's how it works.
He's clearly responsible for this shit. Yeah. He exploded this building. Yeah. Spartan, you're under arrest for killing these people.
Immediately, I feel like 20 minutes later, he was getting frozen.
Here's the thing, right?
Fuck due process. Like, they were just like, let's get him in the chamber.
Yep. He just went, there was nothing else. They just, because then the credits start playing while he's getting led to skip it, to the chamber. Okay. And the funny thing about it, too, as we find out later, is like he was charged more seriously than fucking Snipes was, because Snipes' parole hearing was earlier than his hearing was, which kind of cracks me up a little bit and shit. So, all right. So then they talk about how his earliest parole will be 2046. That's when he's up for the first time he can go to parole. And I was thinking to myself, what a depressing thought. That 2046 is 25 years away, while 1993 is 28 years away, man.
Oh, I don't like that.
I don't like that either. And that's so fucking fucked to me. But we fast forward to 2032 and the future cops. Of course, we get Sandra Bullock as that rambunctious young one who's in love with the past and everything else.
Sure, yeah.
And then we get
super bright-eyed.
Right, exactly.
And like wishing some terrible shit.
We need some bad shit to happen. And then we get like kind of like a run through a bunch of the cops and whatnot. Jimmy Smith's kid is on the force, and then a few other odds and ends. And then we go over to Simon Phoenix, and he's getting his first parole hearing, and they're running down the shit for him, and he's speaking Spanish and a bunch of other shit, and the guy kind of gets pissed off, and things don't go very well as he knows how to unlock himself from his cage and whoops the shit out of everybody and breaks out.
The cryo freezing scene.
Yes. You mean the flux capacitor scene where they put the shit into the flux capacitor?
Yeah. That scene, there was a lot of little attentions to detail.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
I liked when my favorite part, I think, that I just was like, that's clever. That's just a cool, clever thing. Mm-hmm. And then even more that this clever little thing came back later. It was the coolest shit in the world.
Sure.
But it was that it wasn't just a cryostasis where like they lay him down and then they sleep him. Mm-hmm. It was a cryostasis where like there's this goo that fills it up, and then they drop this little pellet of like, I don't know,
the cryo
super freeze thing, and then that freezes them in place.
Yeah.
When that happened, like there was like this elaborate system. I was like, what a cool little elaborate system that was. Sure. The fact that it comes back later, I was like, what? It wasn't even just a little detail. Yeah. The fucking writer was just like, I'm going to be really clever right now.
As Phoenix is just murdering people and shit, we get back to the cops, and then there's alarms going off, 187. And the cops don't even know what that means.
Yeah,
they're like, what the fuck? And only that one old cop is like, oh, what the fuck? 187. Like, that's unheard of, He's the only one who actually knows what the fuck it is. Which is kind of weird because, like, the chief looks like old enough where he would have been around at least when they still had 187s.
So I was doing a lot of the mental calculations here. Sure. Because that was also very interesting to me. Like, who was alive back then?
Yeah.
Where was I?
Yeah.
Where was my age, guys?
Yeah.
And so that chief, I figured at least 50 years old.
Sure.
Minus the, 40 years? Mm-hmm. Something like that. I was like, okay, so this guy was like a 12-year-old when this shit was happening. So, okay, that makes sense. He wouldn't know what the fuck, he was a 12-year-old, So, like, and this was pre the big earthquake.
Right.
The only one that was like a cop was the black guy. And he was probably like a fresh cut, 20-year-old.
They bring it up. He was a rookie pilot at this point in time, so he's probably 22 years old.
Sure,
so.
yeah.
I'll get to that in a second. Okay. So we jump back over to Phoenix, and now he's out in the wild and whatnot, and then we start to get Snipes like in his shit, and he hits up a computer and he starts like fucking typing on, "Whoa, I'm possessed," and this and that, and
he just knows all of it.
Right, he's just like killing it at everything that he's doing and whatnot. So. We then kind of get hit with what the plot of this whole thing is going to be at that point, because he starts to have these thoughts of like, don't you have someone to kill, murder, death, kill, or whatever, and he's thinking about the person that he's supposed to be there to kill and everything else. And he's clearly broken out to take out a certain person, kill this guy. And then, of course, we are going to jump over to the controller of everything. That's Dr. Mel Brooks. Mm-hmm. He's in control of everything. He's the one who squared everything away, kind of saved like the San Andreas thing, and made the super city from San Diego to Los Angeles.
Yeah, so I didn't get him.
Yeah.
And even in the end of the movie, I didn't get him.
Sure.
Not because I didn't understand who he was. I just, like, how did he get there? They didn't give me enough for that.
They just kind of mentioned it.
Yeah, for a movie that paid so much attention to the little things.
Sure.
They really didn't, like, he was a doctor.
Yeah.
And he was just like, here's a solution for stuff.
Yeah, they bring up the fact that he, like, kind of broke what creates violence in a human. Like they kind of skim over it real quickly. It's like these certain different things. He wrote books about these certain different things that create violence in a human, and then he brought that to the government and whatnot, and then they outlawed the things that he
they were like, let's just implement.
Yes, exactly. Which is not America, but it is. I mean, like if anything, we've learned that's the opposite of America, right?
So, what was it? Saint LA or San LA? The thing that stood out to me was how truly foreign this place seemed. Like in a million years, America could never become this. Like everyone was being super silly and like I don't know.
I mean, what is that? 36 years in the future? Yeah. San Angeles. City of San Angeles. Yep. Yeah. So I knew it was like San Diego and Los Angeles put together, right? But yeah, so then the cops are like, all right, we're going to go get Phoenix, and the cops show up, and then we get like a fun scene where he like activates the
They've never spoken aggressively to somebody.
Right.
So like the cop is just like,
such a funny scene.
How do I go forward with this?
Tell him to lay down on the ground and give himself up. And he just ignores the fuck out of him. Yeah. Do it again, but say or else. Yeah. And then that, of course, snaps him and shit. And then he beats the fuck out of him.
And then he whoops the fuck out of him.
And he get a little fun scene with that and whatnot. So then they decide, okay, they talk to Cocktail or whatever, the fucking Dr. Cocktail, and he's like, do whatever you need to do.
He really does look like Mel Brooks.
Yeah.
He really does look like him.
He looks just like Mel Brooks, especially over the last few years and shit.
So sure. That's so funny.
They
he looked familiar to me and I didn't know why. Yeah. And now I'm realizing it's just because he looks like Mel Brooks.
Yeah, he's Mel Brooks. So they break out Spartan, dude. Like they're like, what the fuck are we gonna do? Yeah. And then the old black guy is like, hey, when in the long run we did everything we could. Yeah. None of that shit worked. One man was able to do it. And they're like, what the one man? Yeah, John Spartan. So then they break John Spartan out of the shit and they start to catch his ass up. And he's, ready to hunt down Simon Phoenix. So
yeah, he comes out and he's real like,
we're fish out of the water. He's like, give me a Marlboro or whatever. And he's like, smoking is outlawed. And he's like, all right,
swearing a bunch.
Yeah, exactly. So John Spartan, you are fined.
I really love that credit. Every time they would swear, you'd hear in the background somewhere.
Yeah.
Like they kept that up for forever.
Here, we're gonna get to not an important, but a little attention to detail that I find really cool in a second. Also about that. So he does his whole thing. He's fish out of the water. Someone's like, hey, it's good to meet you. And he does like the sign and he gives him a high five and all that shit. And the guy's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Although that guy was old enough that he should remember.
Yeah, for sure. So
that was the old guy.
Right. And he's like, the 3 seashells. I'm sure you've heard that joke somewhere before. But
I have.
Yes.
I had always in passing heard that.
Yeah.
And watching this, I was like, okay.
Right.
I can check. I can assume that there will be one cultural touchstone in every movie that we watch, and that was the one from this movie. I was like, the 3 seashells.
So Rob Schneider shows up for
Rob
1
Schneider,
minute.
Completely uncredited Rob Schneider.
Well, I'm pretty sure he's friends with Stallone because he's in some other movies with Stallone as well.
Yeah.
And so I think they're like cool or whatever, so he just drags his ass along when he wants to give him a little bit of money.
But that must have been like early, like
yeah. Well, he's like in Judge Dredd together, and that was like a year or 2 before this as well.
No way.
Yeah. So
they must have been friends.
Absolutely. So then he gets his shit together and he's like, all right, we're going to, what do we think he's going to go next? And he's like, all right, we figured out that he's going to set up, a new criminal syndicate and he's going to start to get back to his old ways and this and that, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, no offense, but that's fucking stupid. He's going to go to get a gun. That's the first thing he's going to do. And they kind of make comments that there's only one place you can even see a gun, and that's in a museum. So that's where we go.
Each other.
Yep.
With their eyes all wide.
Right.
Like, oh, we just figured it out.
Shit, he's going to the museum. So the most unrealistic part of this movie hit me right here.
Okay.
Not the future, not the cryogenic freezing, not anything like that, okay?
What hit you?
This movie takes place 36 years after 1996. Uh-huh. And the black guy in this movie is like 22 years old when he's a pilot.
Yeah.
This would make him 58 years old, and he's still just a beat cop. Working things.
No, because he said he'd retired. They said they grounded
oh shit,
him
really?
Like
they grounded him, right? So he's just not a pilot anymore, but he's still like, dude, you'd be retired by now.
Yeah,
it's like 30 years and you're retired, dude. Like unless you're like a chief or some shit like that, man. That's just unrealistic.
And especially since they have gotten rid of money now.
Yes.
So, like, what are you doing?
Right.
What are you doing working? Maybe he just really just wanted to get out of the house.
He's just like, I just don't. He's like, I got a wife at home. She irritates the shit out of me.
And I also can't do anything fun anymore. I can't drink. I can't smoke. I can't do shit. So, like, I can't gamble. I can't even have sex.
Yeah.
I'll just be at work.
Keep working. right. I would probably move out of San Angeles. I'd go to fucking Mexico or some shit. But so we jump over to the museum, and Phoenix is getting his shit on in the museum. Yeah. And there's like, this doesn't have a lot of like 90s offensive shit, except for, of course, this one scene where the fucking Asian people
that was the one time that a like early 90s racist shit happened. Otherwise, they kind of left that out of it.
And even that, he's like the bad guy, so whatever. He's fucking
supposed to be a
clown.
Shit.
Yes, exactly. Sure. So he's doing his thing, kind of going throughout there, and so Stallone gets ready to get in the car, and he's like, I'll drive. And he, because he plays the man card, like, I'll drive this fucking car. And he gets in, and everything starts crazy. Never mind, you drive. And so this was the first part that hit me. I was like, I can't remember this movie, but is this woman kind of be like the Commando woman, where she's like kind of a clown, but actually is helping out in the long run?
And then she ended up,
and she does, and end up actually helping out. So yes, so
she's never a detriment,
right?
Like that's the things that that stand out as far as how women are written aren't necessarily that they're going to be
Ripley or some shit like that. They need to be the hero, but
it's just like, don't write them like a piece of shit.
Yes,
and sometimes they write women like pieces of shit. And this one, she was fine.
She was fine, right? She was actually probably the smartest cop besides Spartan in the long run.
Shit. That was clear. Like they definitely pointed out that this is the only person actually thinking outside the box,
right?
Doing what needs to be done, and with enough knowledge to know where to draw from. Like she was clearly the biggest asset.
Right. And they even give a decent story reason why, because she's obsessed with the past and shit like that. So she's into the old cop stories and everything else like that.
I love how they refer to the before times as the 20th.
Yeah.
Where I'm just like, dudes, it was like 30 years ago. It's not that long ago.
Well, I mean, look at how we refer to shit, from the 90s and stuff like that.
The 90s.
I don't know, man. The 20th century. So
actually, who knows? Because in 2032,
that's still a ways away.
That's sometime later.
If you're listening to this in 2032, let us know on our Facebook or on our
of course
future
page. That as a 20th. That's what it was.
Right. That's exactly.
Fucking century.
That's pretty funny. So then we go, Phoenix is doing his thing, and he's like, I'm gonna fucking, break this thing out or whatever. He's like, motherfucker, all this and that. And this is what I was talking about, because remember, like when Spartan is in the police station and he gets fined because they go, John Spartan, you've been fined 1 credit or whatever. When Phoenix says it, he's like, fuck, and the thing just goes, you've been fined. It doesn't say his name because he's not chipped to the fucking system, so it doesn't know who the fuck it is.
I didn't even notice.
Yeah, but it happens all the time throughout the movie. Anytime his thing comes up, it's just exactly. Yeah, wow. You've been fined 1 credit or whatever.
And I liked how here he was really showing off his martial arts prowess.
Yeah.
Because he was just doing that like high kick over and over again.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. So tosses the guy through the thing, starts to pick up his guns,
and then they had real live ammunition in those guns.
Yes.
I was like, whoever designed this clearly must have thought the world was going to be at peace for forever. Because he's just like, let's just put live ammunition. What's the difference?
Shit. And they're
like, that authentic gun feel.
Hey man, why pull out the firing pin? We just fucking put it on that shelf right there. You literally just have to pull out the firing pin. It's no longer a gun.
He literally took a gun that had just been fired and said, we're just going to put this
So Phoenix is like, wait a second, man, this is the fucking future. Where are the laser guns and shit, right? And he gets his fucking, high capacity fucking whatever
there's
the fuck.
One rail gun in there.
Yes, exactly.
It was like, there's a rail gun in there?
Right. It's pretty great. So then Stallone shows up and everybody's running out. He was like, yeah, I was right. So then they go in to fucking confront him, and they get in their little fight at this point in time. And
this time he's whooping it.
He's way stronger than fucking him. And Stallone's like, what the fuck or whatever, his even face kind of does it. But Stallone does kind of get the better of him at one point, and then what Snipes is like, all right, discretion is the better part of valor right now, and I'm the fuck out of here. So he just fucking jumps out, and he's even like way more acrobatic because he can jump over the fucking
he's like free running up the walls.
Exactly. So gets outside, Dr. Mel Brooks is there, and he tries to shoot Dr. Mel Brooks, completely misses him even though he's 10 feet away, and he's like, don't worry, I'll get you on the next one. Okay, and this is what I'm just going to say right now. almost everything Wesley Snipes says in this movie I fucking love, dude. I don't know why, but like his whole like character is just probably one of my favorite villains we've done since Bill the Butcher and shit, man. Just like how he is and whatnot.
Actually, that doesn't surprise me at all. Thinking back at like the things that we've covered and the ways that you've liked those characters, this doesn't surprise me.
Right.
This gave me like serious RoboCop vibes.
Sure.
And then it also gave me Black Widow 2021 vibes.
Okay.
Because it was just like, I can't shoot you.
Yeah.
That it was the same kind of
pretty funny shit. Man.
Same plot element there.
Mel Brooks is like, hey man, you ain't killing shit, you know. Sorry, no kiss, no bang bang. And
his character was so stupid.
Right?
He was like, so mom. Like,
exactly. So like a fucking 40K villain and shit, man. And so. He's like, yeah, you're right. I got to go kill that guy or whatever. And then just at that point, Stallone comes running out.
I like how he was just like,
saved by the bell.
Accepted it.
Yeah.
Like he was just like, okay, I guess I'll have to do this.
I'll go take care of that. Right. It's been programmed in him. So he has to go do it and shit. So he runs off and Stallone shows up and he's like, hey, you're lucky that guy didn't kill you and whatnot. He's like, oh yeah, you saved my life and whatnot. So I'll treat you to Taco Bell. And Soren's face is just like,
Taco Bell.
All right, I guess, And they start to get ready to go out. He hooks back up with Huxley, and we get a whole bunch of Huxley's lines throughout the movie because he's like, you really licked his ass or whatever.
You really licked his ass, yeah.
It's kicked his ass. That's the ongoing joke throughout the movie, of course. Yeah. So they get all done up in their fucking super Asian
I like how
Asian
she remembers the car later.
Yeah.
Like she's just like, I know exactly what year this car is, what kind of engine this car has, but she can't remember it kicked his ass.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I think it's one of those things though. Actually, I think this is probably one of those little attention to details that I kind of like.
Really? Yeah.
Because think about like now, like just like terminology throughout time and stuff like that, and how like it gets lost in translation sometimes, like British slang and stuff like that.
Kind of, because we say all the time "far out, dude," and that's like from the '60s.
Yeah,
and
I guess
like that was a long time ago.
Sure, but we don't like refer to people as some of the things, anymore. And if you tried to I don't know. Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I didn't feel like it was.
I just feel like her attention to detail. She was just like, oh, I do my research.
Yeah,
and it's just like, yeah, but you can't remember like idioms, like the most common ones.
Sure, and I think it's just, but it's always like one letter off or something like that. Okay. So it's not like it's like crazy,
we're
gonna
go blow that guy.
Right, exactly. Right, we're gonna go blow that guy. Exactly. It's not like we're gonna puff that guy up or something. It's still at least close to what the fuck it said and shit.
Yeah.
As they get ready to head to Taco Bell, they talk about the Arnold Schwarzenegger Museum.
Yes. So there's a lot of like cheeky, self-referential, breaking the fourth wall shit in this movie. One of them was the Schwarzenegger thing, where he became the president, and he's just like, he became the president. Blah, blah, blah. Right. And then there was one where Wesley Snipes refers to Rambo.
Yes.
And I was just like,
it's in the museum. When he's I'm going to borrow this from you, Rambo. Yeah, he takes the bag from him and shit.
Very cheeky.
Of course. Well, wait a second. The Schwarzenegger thing, no.
Why?
Because one of the coincidences of this movie is one day, so 9 years, 364 days after this movie was released, the California recall happened that took the governor out of place and then ultimately elected Arnold Schwarzenegger as the governor of California.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So that's kind of like, exactly, kind of weird and shit. But as they're heading over there, that's when they get the breakdown of what happened with the franchise wars. Because he's like,
franchise wars.
I wouldn't mind a fucking bean burrito or whatever. But yeah, it's kind of.
But I mean, it doesn't matter at this point because there is no meat.
Right.
Like everyone's just eating like pastes and shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like Taco Bell and just the name.
They get to the fucking. They get to Taco Bell and it's all done up and shit like that. And this actually literally made me laugh out loud when the guy singing Valley of the Giant.
Oh yeah,
Jolly Green Giant.
Yeah, because that was another little thing.
Yeah,
where they just kept like consistent with the world that they'd created.
Yes, yep.
And so in this timeline, there's no music anymore.
Right.
The only music that exists are like redone commercials from the past. That was so fucking ridiculous. But the guy that was like, he was just playing the shit out of this Jolly Green Giant.
Right, because it was just like, because you would see that in like, modern, real nice fucking restaurant, but it would be like playing some opera music
or
and stuff
just
like
whatever
that.
fucking song.
Right, exactly. So it cracked me up, I'll be honest. So, and they discuss, this is where we start to get the breakdown of life in 2032, or 2032, and... Dr. Cocktail like breaks down what happened throughout the past and why things were so fucked up, and that this paradise that they've made or whatnot. And we get the whole like, libertarian sort of look that fucking Stallone has to life and shit like that, which
there was more of this later too. But the idea was like, I want my freedom.
Yes, I agree. Like, one thing I will give this movie credit for, it has a couple scenes like that, but it doesn't go like hammering you in the face over and over and over, like how bad this like liberal society.
I'd say when Dennis Leary does his little spiel later, that's where I was just like, you.
But think about this: he was doing this in 1990, right? Yeah. Like, would we look at 1990 and go, "That was some liberal paradise"? No, you know what I'm saying? Like, of course not, right? Like, it's not now today, let alone 1990. Sure, we still fucking had. We literally had covers of magazines talking about how taboo it is that white women were dating black men in the 1990s. Yeah, so, like, give me a break. But we then see Dennis Leary's and his goons attack. They try to come to get some food. Stallone fights them off. Kind of takes down the whole crowd and shit. And Dennis Leary's like, yeah, big fucking hero or whatnot. Yeah. And... like, we already, like, as viewers, you kind of clearly know that these people aren't, like, really, like, assholes or anything. But this was kind of hammered in because of the...
in this moment, I was just like, okay, this is where they told me. They're not bad guys.
Yes.
They're just hungry.
Right. They're trying to steal some food and shit. So...
they're the real Americans later on, you find out.
Yes. So
the last vestige of America.
And we jump over to Mel Brooks and Wesley Snipes, and they're kind of breaking down things going on in the meeting. Mm-hmm. And Wesley Snipes is just, talking his shit or whatever. Oh, put it in a memo and this and that, blah, blah, blah. And
but basically, this is where he structures his like way out.
Yes.
He's just like, hey, I'm gonna need some help.
I need some help. You let Spartan get out. I can't take out Spartan by myself. Yeah. I need these people to help me out with this situation.
And they can't be from this time because the people from this time just don't.
They're pussies, right? Yeah, he even says that later, that they're pussy Brady Bunch motherfuckers here. Yeah. So, this scene, man, you bring up Joe Schumacher. Yeah. The whole beginning, and this, like, just, like, straight up Batman 1990s style. Especially, like, even the crazy outfit he's got on and shit. Which, it's hilarious to me that he has the clothes he had on earlier underneath that outfit, and then these, like, pads on top of that outfit. It cracked me up. So...
the score and the outfits and a lot of the dialogue, it all, like, I swear to God, I was just like, this is Joel Schumacher.
Yeah, this is like some straight up Batman shit.
Yeah, this
like,
is Batman
totally
and Robin before he had the money for Batman and Robin.
Yeah. It definitely, like, the look of it is definitely, to me, more Tim Burton, but I mean, like, Schumacher was working with Tim Burton stuff in the first place when he was making those movies. Sure. So, you know what I mean? But... so Spartan and Hux, they head back to her house and they have sex in her house.
Yeah. She approached it really like, honestly, I felt like it fit really well with what they've established as the world, you know?
Yeah.
And then, she puts the fucking helmet thing on and he's just like, no, I'm not into that.
I'm not into that shit at all. And let me tell you this, okay? This scene makes zero sense to me. While it's very funny, like it's a funny scene and whatnot, it makes zero sense to me that this woman, because you brought this up earlier, how she can't get the sayings correctly, right? She's like a student of the past. Why in the world would she think that Spartan would be like, even know what the sex is, right? Sure. Like, clearly he's like a dude from the 90s, right? He's not going to want to have like mental sex and shit, so... It's a weird scene to me when I analyze it. Like, it's funny and everything in an action movie.
Maybe it just slipped your mind because she was so horny or whatever.
Yes, exactly, right. And I thought to myself, like, okay, this is me just doing the checklist, over-analyzing a scene. Because it's a fine scene. It's just kind of silly when I think about it too much. Yeah. So, then when he's like, all right, man, well, I'm going back to my room and whatnot, goes back to his room and he starts to like investigate shit because he's a cop, man, and he's got cop senses and shit. He's like, something weird's going on here. Cop. Exactly. And Spartan rewatches the scene of how long Phoenix was with the doctor and they were talking and shit like that. And he's just like, all right, something's going down here and shit. And in the meantime, he's also sewing. Yeah. So the next
just to really like settle himself down.
Right. He's just chilling and sewing. The next morning, he hooks up with Hux, and they hands her a sweater, and they discuss why he made a sweater, and just more like world building of this shit because he's
like,
just
this is part of your rehabilitation.
Yeah, this year, and he's like, I'm fucking Betsy Ross after my time in fucking Phoenix, can hack into computers, has super strength, and all this other shit.
That's where they figure it out.
Yes, that's where we're told exactly why Phoenix is able to do the shit.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny with like when we rewatch these movies, especially a movie like this, where I've seen it at least 30 times.
Sure,
okay, at least 30 times. Like, I just take for granted, like, what everything that, like, I know about this story.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to me because I already know that this is, like, how he gets his strength and stuff like that. But, like, if you didn't, like, have that, it wouldn't, like, until
they explained it, I was just like, oh, okay.
Right, exactly. Which, again, man, this feels like this movie could have been Predator, you know, where they just skip over fucking everything. And not explain anything.
Yeah.
But so then Spartan's had enough, and he's like, all right, we're going to go confront the doctor, and we're going to talk shit to him.
They show up to Mel Brooks' house, and he's not there.
Right, you know? Exactly. He's only in the TV screens and whatnot. And they have a little bit of conversation and whatnot, and
he Wizard of Oz's them.
Yeah.
And then he just is like,
he
sees the other guy, his assistant, kind of looking around all nervous. And he's just like, oh, okay, I'm going to fuck you up then.
Exactly. And then the next scene, he's got a gun to his head. And Spartan just breaks it down. He's like, yo, man, I know you think you have this shit under control and shit like that. You do not have this fucker under control. And this is going to end badly for you and whatnot. So, they just they're like, all right, well, we're going to go after his ass, and we know that he's going after Dennis Leary, so we're going to head down to try to find Dennis Leary, and that's where we'll be able to find Phoenix as well. So they leave that place, they head down into the sewers, and this is like old school America, like Spartan remembers, and we get the comedy.
There's burgers, there's beer, he's just like, this is my shit down here, and she's like, this is rat burger, and he's just like, I don't give a fuck.
Right, still delicious to me, man. Yeah. And it's like a very Necromunda setup, you know. Like
it is literally the hive, the under hive.
Right, yeah. So while he's doing this and he's talking shit with Dennis Leary and all that, and he's figuring out what's
Dennis
actually going.
Leary looks at the camera and goes, "Okay, I literally got hired just to do this."
Yes.
And then he cracks his knuckles. He's like, "I'm going to take this real seriously." Yep. And then he gives you his spiel.
You know what I like, pal? I'm going to wake up John Wayne, and we're going to drive down the freeway doing 65. Car that only does 3 miles per gallon. And blah, blah, blah.
My eyes rolled into the back of my head. This was like a conservative's wet dream. What he was talking about.
Yeah. Agreed. Wait, no, not a libertarian's wet dream.
Okay.
Conservatives only act like they want libertarian things, but they also want restrictions on all your social shit as well.
Sure,
so let's be realistic here, man. Come on. Tucker Carlson doesn't want you smoking weed, dude.
Yeah. So. Libertarian's wet dream.
Right. So, so then at this point, we jump back over to Phoenix, and they have the Batman kill the Bat villains meetup scene where they're just all talking the shit, and they're like, yeah, all right, well, this city has been fucking taken over by a bunch of pussies, and only one person's in control of this shit, and if we kill that fucker, we'll be able to take over the city. Are you with me?
We gotta kill the Batman.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like, and then there's even a part of it where he's like, are you with me? And everyone's like, yeah, and the music, So yeah, that was just another like Batman
I literally
scene.
Heard
Exactly. So we get back into the sewers, and as Leary and Spartan are talking and whatnot, Phoenix shows up at that point. I must have done something really good in my past life. And then
just starts like
unloading
it.
100 plus rounds.
Nothing.
Nobody gets shot.
Yeah, nobody gets hit.
I know.
I don't think anybody got hit with a single bullet in this entire fucking movie.
No. Yeah, it's fucking super weird, man. So, and then at this point, Snipes takes off, and he's going to go to the fucking cryogenics. So he takes off at this point, and he runs back to the doctor's place at this point. And Spartan jumps in the car, the old Chevy, I think it was, and they start to take off after him.
Sure.
They have like a street battle and whatnot, and eventually Phoenix gets away. Phoenix heads over to the doctor's house, and he's like, with
his boys.
Yes, exactly. His boys are there and they're chilling, and he's, the fucking doctor's running his mouth about this perfect pearl and this and that, blah, blah, blah. And Phoenix is fucking tries to shoot him, and he's like, you remind me of evil Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
Somebody kill this motherfucker. Yeah. This is like, you talk about Black Widow scene. This is like the straight up Bane scene right here. Like, like he's got the power. No, you don't got the power. And he kills him.
Shoot him.
And then we get the funny scene with Beetlejuice's exorcist. I'd be happy to go under your or whatever, And so Phoenix takes that guy on as a sidekick, I guess, for some reason, whatever.
It's just like, hey, I'll help you with your future administration. I feel like he really attached himself to the idea of having an administration.
Yes.
So he was just like,
he's Varys,
I'm gonna let you slide for that one.
Yeah. And this dude's just Varys. He's just like, I'll be the whisperer for you and whatever, So Bill Goldberg, shoots the doctor, and that's how we end that scene.
Was that Goldberg?
I know.
You had me there, dude. You could have told me yes, and I would have been like, oh shit, I didn't realize that was Bill Goldberg.
So Phoenix now has control of the whole cryogenic place. He's going to take that shit over and just unlock everybody. Yes, exactly.
80 people.
Yeah. Jeffrey Dahmer, I love that motherfucker, right?
Sure.
So
I was like, was Jeffrey Dahmer not dead by this point?
I think
clearly not.
It was right around this time where he got killed. 96 or something, 95, something like that. So. At this point, Stallone and Hux head over to the cryogenic place to take down. Well, they go to the doctor's place first. They see that he's murdered.
Yep.
Okay, he's going to be at the cryogenic place. Let's head over there. So they head over there. He knocks her out, so that he can have his one-on-one showdown with everybody.
Sure.
But puts the beret back on.
Of course, yeah, for sure. He puts his paint on his face.
It's fucking business, bro.
Putting his knives and putting his bazooka on his back.
Yeah. So at this point, he's going to go get him some Phoenix, and they start getting in the gun battle. The end just starts here at this point in time. Fight
each other for a long time.
Beetlejuice's exorcist takes the fuck off. Yep. I'm out of here. Where the fuck are you going? I wish you the best, sir. Stupid motherfucker. And then we just get the end fight basically, and like you point out earlier, he eventually gets him by fucking knocking that fucking
I
flux
thought that was so
capacitor
clever
on.
when I was watching that. Like I was just like, because they're standing in that goop.
This is the greatest day of my life.
Yeah.
Heads up! Boom! Smashes his fucking head open. Yeah, and shit. So, and that's the end of fucking Phoenix. And Spartan heads out, gives Hux a nice big kiss.
Big old kiss.
And that's the end
that's that.
Of the movie.
That is...
Demolition Man.
Demolition Man. Keep forgetting the name of it. You wanted to say Commando.
$45 million to make this movie.
Wow.
In 93. That's a pretty pricey movie.
Sure.
And it actually was probably a little bit more than that, too, because they had to reshoot a bunch of stuff because there was bad weather in L.A. and stuff like that. So, they had to do some odds and ends and shit. And then,
you could definitely tell this was an expensive movie.
Yeah.
They went balls to the wall with a ton of the sets.
Sure.
All the graphics, like this was like early 90s, and it looked like they were pushing the fucking envelope, man.
Most def, man.
Stuff,
Most def. And they, for their troubles, they made $160 million out of this thing.
Yeah,
so,
good for them, man. Yeah, 3 times the amount over 3 times.
4 times.
4 times.
Yeah, just about 4 times.
Good.
So some behind the scenes thing. Originally in the script for this, Burger King actually won the thing.
And then what?
Burger King wanted nothing to do with this movie. So they went to McDonald's. McDonald's did not want to be involved in a rated R film. Okay. So then Taco Bell came up, and Taco Bell was more than happy to be in a rated.
Like, hell yeah, man.
Yeah. We literally serve shit tacos and Mountain Dew. That's the only thing we have. We're extreme. We're down with rated R movies, and so here they went. Both Stallone and Snipes wanted nothing to do with this movie originally.
Really?
Yeah, Stallone. One of his things was he just didn't see the vision of this film, and he's just like, I don't get it, whatnot. Then eventually they got Stallone on board, and Stallone wanted to pick the villain at first. His first pick for the villain, Jackie Chan.
Okay.
That to me, I can see the physicality of Jackie Chan, but I mean, I don't know. I just
different character for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Snipes also, he really didn't want anything to do with this and for him mostly it was because he did action movies and stuff like that, but he was always the hero in these movies and whatnot. And so, and he's been a villain before because New Jack City and shit like that, but he was still a good guy villain kind of, as Nino Brown and shit. Not really a good guy, but not like this over the top villain. Sort of villain and shit that. Yeah. So, absolutely fucking
or a sympathetic villain. I'm sorry.
They eventually did you ever see the movie Rising Sun?
No.
Okay, it's a Pretty good film. I don't know if we'll do it on this one because it's not really like underground classic, but it's Sean Connery and Wesley Snipes as two cops in L.A. and there's a murder at the Rising Sun or like this Japanese building and shit like that, and they have to like investigate who did this murder and all this other shit. So it's actually a really good movie from like 1992-ish era. The creators of this movie had to like go to that set and like basically begged him to like come do this movie and shit like that, and he agreed. The one thing he hated about this movie though was this fucking hair. He was like, I fucking hate that hair, which is funny because I'm sure you don't remember this, but after he did this movie, Dennis Rodman, the NBA player, started doing that with his hair and shit. I mean,
I remember Dennis Rodman's hairstyles. Sure. I just didn't know that it was because
this was the first one he changed his hair to, and then he just did all kinds of crazy shit after that. But he for like a year he had this hairdo when he was playing for the Spurs and shit. That's so funny, So I brought up the thing about Schwarzenegger becoming the fucking governor for this, and the musical score for this. This is what like kind of blew my mind because I was like looking like was this the Batman music? No, the dude who did the original Alien score.
Oh no way!
Yeah, so like the exact opposite, right? Exactly. So, anyways, that's my behind the scenes. So, would you recommend Demolition Man to the man and wham man that watches this to our podcast?
So, no, I wouldn't recommend this movie. Now, that being said, this is the closest I've come to recommending a movie that I ended up not recommending. That I wouldn't say that I recommend.
Sure.
Because I liked a lot of this movie. Mm-hmm. There was a ton here to like.
Yeah.
I'm a very world building guy.
Yeah.
This movie world built the shit out of this world. You know, like they paid so much attention to detail. Mm-hmm. They obviously hired very talented people to like build out this script. There was a ton to like as far as the film aspect of this movie. I thought it was done really well. How it was shot. I thought it was like the story was very clever. I thought.
Sure.
So, on its face, you'd think I'd recommend this movie. The thing that I didn't like in this movie was unfortunately the thing that you're spending the most time with, and that's the characters. I didn't like any of the characters.
Wow.
I thought every character, every single one of them, was a cringy eye roll.
Huh.
And that really puts a damper on whether or not you're going to be enjoying the movie.
Of course.
Even though the rest of the movie was fun. I liked the plot.
Yeah.
I thought the plot was fun. I liked the setting. I liked its execution. Mm-hmm. I just I couldn't care or give a shit or even like any of the characters on screen. Sandra Bullock's character and all the cops were all just kind of like hokey, kind of shitty characters.
Sure.
Dennis Leary's character was a fucking piece of shit. Wesley Snipes' character was too much of a clown for me to really enjoy.
Sure.
And I know that you like fun over the top characters like that, but I don't really,
I mean, I'll get to it.
Yeah, and then Stallone's character I thought was really like John Wayne-y,
Sure.
Real like boomer energy. And so, I didn't like any of them. And so, I because I didn't enjoy anything that anyone was saying or doing, I just kind of liked everything else in the background.
Sure.
I would say that I barely don't recommend this movie.
Interesting.
I think it was... I didn't hate that I watched it.
Sure.
But I wouldn't watch it again. There was so much that I wanted to like about this movie, even right off the bat. I remember when it first started, I was 3 minutes in. And it was the scene where he's infiltrating the building. And I'm just like, oh, dope. He picked another fucking good one. I get to enjoy the shit out of this. And then halfway through the movie, I was just like, oh, everybody's so fucking lame. And by the end, I was just like, I really wanted to like this movie. The whole way through. Yeah. The whole way through, I was just like, please give me something to like in this movie. But I disliked the characters enough that I'd say I wouldn't recommend this movie. It was too cringy most of the time. It's for me to be like, you're really missing out if you haven't seen it. But it was a fine watch, I just wouldn't recommend it.
Sure, sure. Interesting. So, I mean,
what do you think? Does it hold up? I mean, you've seen it a million times, but does it hold up?
Of course. I haven't seen this movie probably in 5 or 6 years. But the fact that I saw it 5 or 6 years ago and recommended and brought it up and then watched it again lets you know, obviously, I love this movie again.
Yeah.
I can see where you're coming from Kind of. But I feel like maybe the mood you were in going into this film affected you a little bit.
No, because I really, I said, 3 minutes in, I was like, hell yeah, this is going to be a good movie.
I don't see how you recommended Commando, but not this. Because this has the same energy to me as Commando does. Almost to a T, except for Bennett being way more over the top than Bennett was in Commando.
But I feel like that's why.
Okay.
Because in Commando, it was not like he wasn't making a statement about how people should be.
Sure.
He wasn't just like, you guys have let technology do too much for you.
Sure,
Sometimes you got to get in it with your hands.
Yeah.
Mentality. That's what I'm talking about as far as like real boomer mentality.
Yeah.
Because with Commando, he was just a straight up superhero. Yeah. Like this guy was like not real. He was the god of death made incarnate. Sure. So it was more just watching like like an action star versus like I'm just like the hardest man around. I don't vibe with that mentality. That to me seems cringy.
So do you think like if they would have been like they implemented some like super strength to him as well, like you would have liked it a little bit more?
I think if he was commenting less on how much better it was to be like
in
your
the
own man type thing. Because Commando, they weren't commenting on anything.
Right.
This guy was just a hard fucking guy.
Yeah, I get, okay, so now I kind of see, I think your politics kind of colored this film a little bit. And I get that. I get that. I totally can understand that. For me, it's just...
hard as fuck for both the main character, for Stallone, and for Dennis Leary. Okay. My politics super... like colored how I interpret them.
The only thing I didn't like about this movie is Dennis Leary is way dated at this point. Okay,
yeah, for sure.
I thought Stallone was actually surprisingly good for this film. Like I looked at him like as a Judge Dredd sort of character and shit like that. And
I think I've never seen Dredd.
Yeah,
like the original movie.
Wait, the original movie.
Yeah,
okay,
Judge Dredd. I've seen the new one. I haven't seen the original.
We'll do the original at some point in time.
I think a character like that I could like more than what this is.
I mean, it's the same character for the most part.
But isn't it less talking? Like he talks a lot less?
No,
really?
Yeah, it's the exact opposite of the new Dredd, where he's got his helmet off and he's talking the entire time. Basically.
Gotcha. So, I just didn't like the commentary.
Yeah.
I
got you. So like, to me, like I like Stallone in this. And Snipes is amazing to me in this. Like it's funny that you say that about me because like sometimes I like over the top guys and sometimes I hate over the top guys. It matters how it plays. It's funny how you refer
to him as Bill the Butcher, and I was just like, I hated Bill the Butcher.
Right? No, exactly. I love Bill the Butcher though. So like,
it was a great performance.
He's probably my favorite of the villains. Like, so this is like probably second if I think off the top of my head. Like I'd have to go through like the individual movies, but I'm gonna guess that they're both better than like the Alien Creature or Terminator or I'm kidding, obviously, but like you know what I mean. Like so, like I just really I thought he was fun. I thought the movie is just fun in general. The only complaint I would have about this movie is that it's just under 2 hours. Like I think if you trim this film up to like an hour 30, hour 45, this movie would be even better because you could probably take out some of the political commentary and just make this an over the top action film, and I think it would have been even better. Like it'd have been even more.
I felt
fun.
Like this movie was saying these pussy liberals over and over and over.
So here's the thing.
And I was just like, dude, they want a fucking nanny state.
I thought that was part of it, but like I also felt like no, because think about this. Like it's like the worst policies of liberals and the worst policies of conservatives put together. Because liberals
aren't straight fascism.
Yeah, because liberals aren't trying to like stop you from from eating meats and shit like that, or like smoking weed and shit, or having sex.
I guess not the sex and the weed, but like the meat, according to Republicans, yeah.
Well, that's according to Republicans.
But that's what I'm saying.
Really what liberals.
That's why I thought it was an unfair. Okay. Even when it comes to how they presented like the conservative characters, I thought it was all unfair.
Do you feel as though did you like? I know this is like completely left field, but that's what we do here. Did you like Dark Knight Rises? Bane.
It was my least favorite of the three.
Sure, but I mean that's like right wing as fuck.
Yeah,
that movie is.
Sure.
But so like that didn't like. So maybe that's why it's the least favorite of the three. But that's pretty funny. So yeah, man, I don't know. I enjoyed this movie quite a bit, and this is an interesting day for us, brother.
Why?
we are just about at our 1 year anniversary of this show.
Oh, shit. Yeah, the next episode is 1 year, right?
So why don't you fill them in about what we do with our Patreon and whatnot?
Yeah, okay. So for those of you who want to help support the podcast, we have a Patreon at patreon.com/minoritiesreport, where you can help us, just maintain the podcast.
We already have one movie up there.
Yeah, we've got The Green Knight that we reviewed a couple of weeks ago when it came out, and we'll be reviewing more as they come. And by the time you show up on there, there'll probably be more. A lot of episodes that were lost or parts of an old podcast that we were going to do. And so there's a nice little amount.
We'll do another one probably within the next month here. We'll try to keep them to like one a month.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we'll be doing some more stuff on there too. So if you want to help us out, that's patreon.com/minorities report.
Yeah, that said, man, here's what I'd suggest for next week.
Oh, boy.
Whatever you did in your life 1 year ago, before you started listening to us, rewind back to that day. Go back to that date. Start reliving your life the exact same way, just slightly different, and join us for Terminator 2.
I'm actually genuinely excited about that.
It'll be live.
Should it be live? Oh my god, we should do this one live.
It's not going to be fucking live. You got to wait that 15-day waiting period? Okay, I just like to take one now. Punch, motherfucker! Mellow greetings, sir. What seems to be your boggle? My boggle? Hey, how much do you weigh?